What's up, you guys? I'm Dan. This is Frugal Not Cheap. Today we'll talk about what I think about Tesla insurance after having it for 1 year. Last year I moved over from Geico to Tesla as my insurance provider. Tesla insurance is available in 12 states, but of course one of those, which is California, does not allow sort of the real-time insurance or real-time driving data to be used in order to calculate your policy premium. But in the 11 other states, which are Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, Ohio, Oregon, Utah, Virginia, and here in Texas, Tesla real-time insurance is available. To some degree, this real-time insurance, which is basically keeping track of your driving behavior in order to calculate your risk profile and therefore your policy premium, isn't really anything new. So I had that with Geico. I had the Geico app on my phone, and I enrolled in their program that basically tracked whether or not I was using my phone while driving, and then also, was I speeding? I think definitely if I was hard braking, different driving behaviors, it was tracking that in order to give me a discount on my insurance policy. Progressive does that, and then I think Allstate has a product as well. But where Tesla insurance is very, very different from other insurance providers is that they don't use demographic data in order to calculate your risk profile and your policy premium. In other words, they don't care if you're male or female, they don't care about your age, they don't care about your driving history either. So this is a pretty radical departure because all of those factors, say being male and being younger, having been in accidents in the past, all of these things should increase the amount of risk that's perceived for a driver. But all these things are ignored by Tesla, and instead they're just going to look at how you actually drive, how long you drive, of course where you're located, because that does matter to some degree, and then of course how many vehicles you have. They have a volume discount, and then what kind of coverage limits you have. Those obviously are going to impact the premium. So of course that was attractive to me, having been in an accident last year. Premiums would have gone up for me? Well, maybe. I don't know. I shopped around and I looked at Progressive. I think they quoted something like $2,200 to $2,400 a year. So that was pretty brutal. I actually got a really favorable quote from State Farm, and this would have been a bundle with my umbrella policy and my renter's insurance as well. I don't remember exactly what the numbers they were, but they were comparable to what I've been paying with Geico. But I ended up moving over to Tesla, and of course I've gone through like the 6-month policy renewal period, and then now I'm getting into my third policy period with them. And because they're not taking into account the driving history, then of course that accident isn't having an impact on my policy premiums. One thing that I learned after having actually had Tesla insurance for a while is kind of the way that the calculation works. So initially, when you first get Tesla insurance, your premium can fluctuate quite a lot month to month based on how much you're driving, because Tesla doesn't have a history of about how much you tend to drive over a long period. After the initial 6 months are up, though, it uses the amount of the average mileage that you had per month throughout that initial 6-month period, and it uses that to calculate kind of a baseline for your premium for the following 6 months. But still does fluctuate month to month, although the mileage part component doesn't fluctuate anymore, is really kind of how safe you're driving. So here we have different factors such as forward collision warnings. Getting close to crashing into stuff, probably not a good thing for safety. Hard braking also means that maybe you weren't paying attention, or you're just ending up in situations where covering the brakes very quickly is necessary, and that's obviously not safe either. Aggressive turning, also definitely an unsafe behavior. And unsafe following. This is especially on the highway going over 50 miles an hour, where you want to have a good follow distance. And it'll penalize you if you have a low follow distance, which of course is unsafe. Then excessive speeding, this is going over 85 miles an hour. Forced autopilot disengagements, this is if you're not paying attention while the car is on autopilot or FSD supervised. Unbuckled driving, obviously a bad idea. And late night driving, where it used to, it's done basically like on a weighted basis, so it starts at 10 p.m. is when they start dinging you for late night driving. But the ding for, a 10 p.m. drive is a lot less than one for like at 1 in the morning or something like that, which also aligns with what you'd expect risk-wise. One of the great things that happened in Safety Score 2.1 that was just released and just now this month became effective for me is that start of the late night period has been moved from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. I guess they noticed just it doesn't really impact the risk factors from 10 to 11 p.m. Nearly as much as they thought, and so they shifted that back to 11. And that's good for me, because a lot of times I drive just, from like around, I don't know, I get home at like 10:15 or something like that, and this is no longer going to negatively impact my score, and thereby, it's not going to lift up my premiums as much either. So cost-wise, where am I? Well, I think the lowest I got my premium with higher safety scores and lower mileage was about $100 a month. So that would be about $1,200 a year. On the high end, we're in the low 130s, something like that, for an average of, I'd say, about $120 a month. So a little bit higher than I was paying with Geico, but not tremendously so. Especially with a lot of the hail damage that we've been having here has really pushed up insurance premiums for the DFW area quite a bit. However, and I think I mentioned this in my last video as well, because I do have a kind of more comprehensive review of what I thought at the time. There's still an issue where I'm an FSD beta tester. I drive FSD supervised basically 99% of the time, as much as possible I drive it. But what that means is sometimes you've got to take over. So if there's a mistake that it makes on the highway, I might have to correct it, and I might not be able to get to like a situation that doesn't impact the safety score within the couple of seconds grace period that it gives you afterward. So I might end up having, say, some unsafe following if someone cuts across into me or something like that. Other times I may have to do some hard braking even beyond the grace period as well when FSD screwed something up. And then other times I've just been going to park my car and I'll get like a forward collision warning for no reason that I can see. And all of these factors negatively impact the score, of course, but the big problem is that the denominator to score these, their impact on your score, is manual driving miles, not total miles. So the only way to get your score back up is to go out there and drive manually and drive it in such a way that, you get these things back up. So like recently I had one of those hard braking events. This was, I think, about a week ago or something like that. So then the next few drives I had to go out there and drive manually and then keep my foot on the brake as much as possible in order to get braking time up, in order to get the, weighted impact on my score down. And so I got my score back up from like I think it went down to 96 and I got it back up to 98, which of course does have a pretty good impact on the policy premium. So that's still something that I think Tesla should seriously reconsider, is to make the denominator be all miles driven and not just manual miles driven, because otherwise it's encouraging the wrong behavior, which is to drive manually rather than using all the safety systems, which obviously, the combination of FSD supervised plus human supervision is much, much safer. So I really hope Tesla will, give that a whole lot of thought and redo that. However, that being said, overall, I'm really happy with Tesla insurance. The policy premiums, again, are to some degree under my control in terms of driving safely. And as long as I don't have these odd events, like the hard braking event that I had, and then I had another one with forward collision warnings, in the year, I've had, I think, 2 or at most 3 of these events where I had to go out and kind of, game the system to get my score back up and my premium back down, which is more than I'd like, but it's not all that bad. And overall, I do like the way that what this kind of system does is it aligns the driver's incentives with the insurer's incentives, which is to promote self-driving, which also align with societal incentives. We would want people to be out there driving safely. So I like that. And again, I also like how they sort of don't discriminate based on demographic and other factors that aren't necessarily fair, in the sense that you might have these factors and they're weighing against you, but you might be a really, really safe driver. So it doesn't seem kind of right that they're impacting your policy premium. Lastly, I'll say that the interface is really cool, how it's all, inside the app. Your Tesla app has everything that you need right there. And, the UI is very pleasing and also very easy to understand and full of a ton of detail as well. So that's always fun if you're kind of a geek about the details. Now, of course, I haven't had to submit a claim. Someone kind of got upset at the last review because they wanted to know what it's like if you submit a claim. Well, luckily I haven't been in an accident over the last year, so I don't know. Hopefully it'll go well. But I think to some degree it should help to streamline things because, again, it is Tesla insurance, and then the repairs would be done by a Tesla shop or a Tesla authorized shop. And so it should be a little bit more streamlined that way if something were to happen. But hopefully nothing will, and I'll just end up having a nice smooth experience here with Tesla insurance. Do you have it? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.